Bloody hell, I've got thumbs like a blind cobbler. Hey everyone, and welcome to this quite unseasonable edition of Veefour. Now you all know, or at least those of you who watch my channel, know that I don't ride in winter, and this is the beginning of February. There's very few things that could tempt me out of my winter hibernation, and today I'm on one of the few things that can. I'm riding a brand spanking new Yamaha MT-09 SP. This thing is brand new into the country, and this particular model is absolutely brand spanking new, and I've been kindly let loan of this machine from Chorley Yamaha, who have let me take this out on a test ride today, and I'm going to tell you what my first impressions of this bike are based on the said test ride. Now if you watch my last video from the NEC bike show, then you may remember that I was quite excited about this bike, and I was really happy to see it on the display there, because I'm very fond of a triple. I've had a couple of triples myself, I've ridden many triples, mainly obviously only Triumph exclusively. This is the first non-Triumph triple I've ridden. I'm very excited about the new street triple, and I've owned a speed triple myself, and I currently own a Tiger 1200 triple as well. So I'm quite well versed in this engine configuration, and when I first saw this on display, I remember thinking to myself, if this comes in at the right price, then this could be a big threat to the street triple. And you know what? It's like £1,000 cheaper than the street triple. Hence, my interest has been piqued, and piqued greatly. Now then, so to the MT-09 SP version. This is the first MT-09 I've ever ridden. I've been interested to ride this bike for quite a few years now because of the reputed torquey engine that it has, and all the reviews that I've seen, and I've seen many of them, prior to this edition and prior to the sort of 2017 model. The greatest praise that people had for this bike was its torquey 847cc engine, I think it's got. I'll put all the facts and figures on the screen for this bike now. So that's how much powers and torques that this bike has, because I don't know them off the top of my head, to be honest. And most people really raved about this engine, saying this was a lovely, torquey, lovely, powerful engine to ride. And the one thing that let it down, or one of the few things that let it down, was its suspension and general quality. But it was always a budget bike. So from 2017, I believe, they started adding fully adjustable suspension to this machine. But this SP variant has the very excellent KYB fully adjustable suspension up front, very similar to my R1's front forks, and they are perfectly good for the job. And on the rear you have a Öhlins full, I think it's a TTX unit on the back with a full adjustable parameters and an outboard preload adjuster for on the go. So yeah, so it's now a very well equipped bike. Now today it's February, it is sunny but it's cold, the grey dust of death is on the road, which is why I don't ride in winter, because that stuff gives your bike cancer in the form of pitting and rusting. But this isn't my bike, so I don't mind riding it. And straight away, my very first impressions of riding this machine is that it is comfortable. The riding position is absolutely lovely. It is almost like a dirt bike almost to sit on. You're very, very upright. Not quite as upright as maybe a supermoto, but you're not far off. Your feet are quite below you. There's not much of a bend to your knees. But what you can do, and I've noticed this quite quickly, is that just by moving your feet from, say, the balls, which I'm on now, and putting your heels on the foot pegs, it's two completely different riding styles. Heels on the pegs, all day comfort. Balls of the feet, more sporty. Drop your elbows a bit, and yeah, you could scoop your arse back, and you're in a fairly semi-sporty position to throw this thing around a bit. And then throwing it around, I mean, I've not given it anything like anything what it's capable of, and I won't either, because it is so cold, the roads are so greasy. It's got brand new tyres. The bike had 1 mile on it, it's now done 8. That's how new this bike is. So I'm not going to disrespect the dealer that's let me take this out by ragging their completely unbroken bike on sketchy surfaces, because it'd be very embarrassing to take this back in a crate, and there's a £750 excess if I do. So I'm going to be well behaved on this bike today, but it will at least give me an idea of what this bike has hidden under its skirts. And the second thing I noticed when I got on it is just how nimble it is. It really is. It's a small bike. It is very, very small. But bikes kind of are small to me because I'm such a biggish kind of guy, you know. I'm in excess of like 110 kilograms, especially with my gear on. I'm a big guy. So all bikes kind of feel small to me, apart from my Triumph Tiger. But that diminutive stature aside, it feels lovely to sit on and ride. The handlebars are not too wide, but they're wide enough to give you control authority, and the rise on them is, as I said earlier, not quite supermoto rise, but they do allow for a nice straight back with a slight canting forward position. The seat is very hard, but as I've said in previous videos, I have quite the strong postern, and from riding carbon fibre seated pedal bikes for years, I've actually got quite a tough backside, so that to me is actually quite nice. I actually prefer a firmer seat, so it works for me, may not work for everyone, and it ever so slightly cants me backside forwards, so I do feel slightly as if I'm sliding in towards the tank. But the seat is made from a material which seems very, very grippy. Ooh. I'll explain about the controls shortly. So yeah, other than this slight canting forward of the seat, I would have to give the seating and riding position a good 9 out of 10, I think. This road is very, very greasy. It's a shame it's not this isn't summer and I could really give this a bit of a go and it was a nicely broken in bike, but it's not. But we work with what we have here. But I can tell straight away that even I'm in 6th gear doing 50 here, and it's still pulling. It still pulls. That torque is so low down, and I love that. I really do like that. It's one thing I liked about the MT-10 that I test rode, and this is simply, obviously it's not got as much torque as the MT-10. Let's face it, very few bikes have. But this has, it feels to me, more low down torque than the Street Triple RS. Now it depends on what your flavour of preference of a bike is. The Street Triple RS, for example, That's more like a full sports bike in an upright package, and it's glorious just for that. It really is. Whereas this is more like its own thing. The whole MT range, even the MT-10, which could be argued is an undressed R1 with a different engine tuning. But this definitely feels more like a street bike, whereas the Street Triple RS is a great street bike, fantastic fun bike to ride, but it would really, really favour a good track day rider, that bike. It would not let you down in track days. And I don't suppose this will either. It just doesn't feel quite as sporty as the Street Triple, but with this lovely suspension that it has now, even in this sketchy condition, it feels like it's doing a really good job of keeping the wheels in contact with the ground. And on the suspension itself, with this Kayaba KYB front forks and the Öhlins rear unit, I've set it up on the rear to be as firm as possible. I'll show you more on the walk around that it does actually have an outboard preload adjuster, and I've set it up to be as firm as possible because, as I said, I'm a heavy guy. But just riding this machine around on the very rutted and potholed roads of Lancashire, it feels okay. I can feel the bumps. It doesn't plush them away entirely, but it takes that sharp edge off the bump, but still gives you a sensation of what the road surface is doing underneath your wheels, which to me is one of the primary jobs of suspension, is to provide you that feedback that you need to be able to ride safely and ride quickly and well, and, and to basically do a good job of the whole thing. Because I like a sports bike, and this has enough sporty pretensions in it to fulfill that need and that desire that I like. So let's have the all-important walk around of this machine, the 2018 Yamaha MT-09 SP. Now, to my eye, that's a really pretty looking bike, gotta say. I particularly like the paintwork. I did like it on the MT-10 SP, and for me that's a big selling point. I do like the mixture of the black and the silver with the blue highlights and the blue wheels with the gold fork sleeves. They do look really nice, and I like the overall stance of the bike. I like the cut-off short rear end. I like the sort of profile that it casts in that respect. The nice jutty out, the wheel sticks out further than the tailpiece. It's a very, very pretty bike. I think it looks nicer than the Street Triple. I do. I'm admitting that to myself now for the first time. I think it's a nicer looking bike. One of the things I didn't initially like, but it's kind of grown on me, is this kind of slanty, almost Kawasaki-esque way that they've done the headlights. It seems to be the fashion at the minute, but it's a modern look, and in a world full of retros and things of that nature, I think it's a good look. The lines sort of work and sort of match the seat and the top of the tank. That exhaust, albeit it's a rather big beefy Euro 4 thing, they've done about as good a job as possible of tucking it away underneath the swing arm there. Nice black engine cases with a frame and subframe, and the way that the wheels are blue, I really like the way that they just sort of pop out of the bike, them blue wheels. The one thing I'm not too sure about is this sort of number plate holder. I understand why it has to be there, because they have to be the furthest thing out at the rear of the bike apparently, which is why all manufacturers put them there on these stupidly elongated fender things. And maybe I would prefer it up here, but actually looking at that now, I think it's quite a good solution, because take your eye off that and you've got a nice clean back end here, you know. Really nice. And there's the outboard adjuster for preload for the Olins. Quite handy. It's a bit of an odd one though. You turn it up to stiffen it up, and it doesn't have a stop on it. It just keeps going and clicking and clicking and clicking. And the other way, same, just keeps clicking and clicking and clicking. Now I've checked it on two. I've checked it on this one, and I've checked it on the one in the window at the dealer. So it's obviously not a fault. So I'd have to read the manual exactly on how that works. But I've turned it several times towards the H for hard, and it does feel firm enough for my body weight. And one thing that Yamaha are offering with this bike, it'll be a paid extra, is what you can pay to have the spring changed to suit your personal weight, and that's something that I would look into if I was in the market for this bike, just to deal with my heft, so I wouldn't have to have it dialed up to full all the time. It's got the Yamaha up-only quick shifter, which I'll demonstrate later, but I'll give it a quick go. It works perfectly well. No down blip on it, unfortunately, but hey, I managed to live this long without a down blipper. So yeah, very, 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 very pretty bike. I like it, I do. It's got a certain something about it that is ineffable, almost. Very pretty. I do think Yamaha are killing it, especially in this SP colour scheme. I can't go on, I really do like that colour scheme. Very nice bike. So let's have a listen to it. Even with that factory Euro 4 compliant exhaust, it's got a nice bit of a growl to this bike. It's not very loud, I can kind of live with that, and you get that nice little bit of there's a nice little pop there on the overrun, which I do like, and I think it would just be an aesthetical and noise sound improvement if you put an aftermarket can on it. Personally, I'm not sure if I would actually bother, you know. Possibly just to sort of clean up that bottom and get rid of that big collect can at the bottom, but I don't know, I could live with it. It doesn't feel stifled. Now it doesn't have the top end Brembos that the Street RS has. It has this sort of stock Yamaha calipers, they look to be the same ones that are on my R1, and on that bike they're not so good, and they are nowhere near as good as the Brembos, obviously, but it's got plenty of braking and enough braking I could live with, although that initial bite of the Brembos would be nice on this bike, but it's £1,000 cheaper, so go figure. The doesn't have the TFT display that the MT-10 SP had, or the R1, but what it does have is this same offset display that displays everything you could possibly need. You've got all your rider modes on there. I mean standard now, A and B. Memory serves, A is your high one and standard, B is your soft one for rain, etc., and standard is you kind of in between. It's got traction control here, which can be adjusted. So let's have a look. Oh yes, traction control. It's got 3 settings. 1, 2. I'd have to read up a little bit more on this. 1 and 2. Now the controls, as I explained earlier, I keep activating the horn by mistake. So I'm not used to these controls, but they are nice positive click controls. I do like that. You know, but they are quite small, and my big clumsy hands sort of would have to get used to them. But they are a nice solid engagement rather than these little printed circuit board ones that just sort of touch a connection on a printed circuit board. I like these nice chunky on off kind of nature of these switches. I like it, and Yamaha have always had good switch gear. I've always maintained that. But other than that, the display, it's not a TFT one, and in this day and age it seems that if you don't have a TFT display, then you're at the back of the game. But Yeah, TFT displays are good. I have one on my R1 and I like it. But if my R1 didn't come with one, then I wouldn't dislike the bike anymore. I don't ride a bike to look at the dash, you know, I ride a bike to ride it. All the dash has got to do is show me the information that I need at the time, which this does. And it does it on a reverse screen from the stock MT-09. So instead of being black on white, it's now white on black, and I think that looks kind of better. It looks a bit more mean and business-like. So yeah, I like that. Now back to the ride. Just riding this bike around sensibly and nicely, and it's something that I really do miss when I ride bikes like my R1 or my Tuono. Is this ability to ride in a relatively high gear at lower speeds without the engine banging and clattering away underneath you like it's about to stall. And I'm in 4th gear doing 30 miles an hour, the engine's purring away lovely, no vibrations, no lumpiness. The fueling, I've got to say, feels really nice. You know, I'm in a higher gear here, it's rolling on without any hint of a surge, it's doing a really good job. Very smooth, and the throttle action is quite smooth as well. These fly-by-wire throttles can be a little bit snatchy, but I think it's because I've got so used to riding my R1 now, which does have a rather on-off switch of a throttle, that something like this feels so refined, because it's not got that excess of power that cannot be dealt with unless it's going at full speed. It's a very sensible and sedate bike to ride, rather like the MT-10 was. It was fueled more for the street, and this is fueled more for the street, and it's great. I could ride this around and I wouldn't be having to feather the clutch, I wouldn't have to be changing gears constantly. Well done Yamaha on the fuel, and this is absolutely lovely. Getting your own side of the road, Phil, that'd be really nice. So, getting a bit more open road, but still in 4th gear, it winds on. And it's got plenty of power. Doesn't have the arm-wrenching, shoulder-dislocating power of like a Super Naked 1000, but I actually like it for that. It's a usable, accessible bike. You can use so much more of the rev range on this bike than you can on, say, my old Tuono or my R1 or even my Speed Triple. It's just more usable in the same way that the Street Triple RS was. It was a fun bike because it was so usable, and so is this. And I'm really starting to come around to this power bracket that it's in. I mean, its immediate competitors, along with the Street Triple RS or the Street Triple range in general, is bikes like the Suzuki GSF 750, the Kawasaki Z900. These bikes are all in this same bracket of power and usability and torque and things like that. They're all very much of a muchness. It's just all down to personal preference, which you like the most. And this one, if you like, well, for one, if you like triple cylinder transverse engines, this is a good one. If you like bikes that are torquey in the lowdown, this is a good one. It'll have more top end than you can shake a stick at, and even with these stock Yamaha brakes, yep, and that was only half braking power, that because the roads are a bit slippy. Plenty of brakes. The quick shifter seems to work just fine. Just seems, you know, it's up only, but it does a really good job of allowing you just to concentrate on accelerating and getting that really vibrant triple cylinder roar as you're snicking up through the gears. Lovely, like it. points and features. Obviously we've got to address the mirrors, because no test ride review would be complete without talking about the mirrors, and they're not very good. Don't get me wrong, they don't vibrate, and they actually do look quite good, you know, they're quite stubby and short and in keeping with the angular nature of the bike. It's just that half of the view is taken up with my elbows, so they could really do with coming out a bit further. And for me, if this was my bike, set of bar end mirrors, get rid of them, because one thing I do like, I like the way it's clear up front. I like the way there's nothing between you and the outside world. The clocks are very diminutive, the headlamp unit's right down there, so it almost looks like you're looking over the front of a dirt bike or an enduro bike. And of course that means there is no wind protection, but I've been on record about this before. Wind protection, schmind protection. I don't really care about wind protection unless I'm going to be sat on a motorway for 500 miles. This isn't that kind of bike. It's a fun weekend, potential short-range commuter bike, bit of a do-it-all bike really. You could throw luggage on it, throw over satchels on it, and you could go and do touring on it. You know, so wind protection for me isn't the big be-all and end-all. And if you were after a bike like this with touring in mind, well, you've got the MT-09 Tracer. You know what I mean? Just buy one of them. It's pretty much the same bike, just with a different bit of bodywork on it and a bit of wind protection and stuff like that. So you're well covered with this little family of bikes, you really are. So who am I going to recommend this bike to? Who would this be good for? Now, it's a difficult one, that, because the whole MT range that Yamaha make seem to be aimed at everyone. Obviously, if you were a brand new starter on motorbikes, you'd have no business getting on an MT-10. That's what the MT-07's for. But could a complete ab initio rider get on one of these and ride it? Possibly could, but I would qualify that anyone coming new to bikes and thinking that this would be a good first bike for you would have to have a certain maturity of mind to not allow yourself to be seduced by the dark side that this bike offers you, that it does have so much potential and torque that you could get yourself into a position where you run out of skill a lot longer than the bike runs out of ability. So I would just think long and hard. But if you were sort of a guy like me in your late 40s, rediscovering bikes after a long layoff, then this would be absolutely superb. And it suits everyone from the commuter to the weekend scratcher, because it handles beautifully and it's comfy. Does reasonable gas mileage, although I've not worked out how to change the display to show me that. Well, apparently it's on there. So yeah, a very broad machine that appeals to a very wide demographic, this bike. Love that low end. I'd love just to have one run in and be able to really wring its neck to see what it does, you know, when you get up past sort of 9 RPM. I bet it really screams then. But as I said earlier, it's not my bike, it's a brand new one, and I'm not going to thrash it. Right, so I've been riding around in standard. Let's see what A mode is like, shall we? Right, off the throttle, clutch in, A, clutch out, and we've changed modes by this little button here marked mode. Very easy. Ooh, straight away. There is so much. Whoa, yes. Wow, I did not expect that to be so different. Even before I've even overtaken this little Vauxhall here, you can tell that the throttle is much more urgent. get rid of this character. Wow! Wow! Yeah, tell you what, normally when I change these rider modes, and it's been my experience with a few of my own bikes, is that often you can't really tell the difference. But wow, this A mode is noticeably different. And I'll tell you what, if this was my bike, this would be the mode it would be in 100% of the time. Does not need anything else. Wow, it's got so much more drive lower down. Now be careful, Dave, it's still winter and the roads are slippy. Behave yourself. Excellent. Yeah, so if you were a brand new rider, you put this in standard, you're good to go. Get a few months under your belt, put it in A mode, you've got a completely new bike. Wow, what a difference a mode makes. You can feel the front wheel lifting off the road without me even trying. I'm rubbish at wheelies, I can't do them on demand, but I bet this bike you could learn on. And judging off a lot of the other videos I've seen, I'm sure you can. So just for comparison, let's see what B mode is like. B, clutch out, B mode. Yeah, much softer. Much softer. Definite sponginess to the throttle response, which is if you were that kind of person who rides all year round and you're in the middle of winter, this is possibly the mode you want to be in. But bearing in mind that we are actually now in the middle of winter and I could ride it fine in A mode, well, that's just me, I think. Oh yeah, definite lag in the throttle in B mode. Oh bloody hell. So 2018 Yamaha MT-09 SP. Very pleased to be riding this today, and thank you for watching. I hope this has been of some use to anyone who's possibly in the market for such a bike, but I've got to give it a big old thumbs up. I think I like it. To me it hits that same sense of enjoyment that the Street Triple RS does, and I'm definitely getting more and more into the concept of owning a smaller capacity bike. I think I'm kind of done on litre bikes on the road now, and this would be a good one. I would recommend it heartily. So if you've enjoyed this video, why not click the old like button there, and if you've got anything that you would like to ask me about this particular bike or in relation to the test ride I've done today, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I generally get back to everyone. It may take me a bit of time, but I like to. It's a bit of a public service I like to think I'm producing here. So yeah. So back to my hibernation in winter now. My own bikes won't be coming out until March, I would imagine, at the very earliest, so probably late March as well at that. So another couple of months of hibernation for me, but it has been really nice to get out and ride this beast today. So I've really missed just riding bikes, but this is a nice bike to get out on. So from me and the lovely Yamaha here, I'll bid you all a very good day. A good day, sir. Good day.